I'm excited to welcome back our presenter, Roger Rickard. He's the guy that organizations call when they need to advance their advocacy influence. He is the founder and president of Voices in Advocacy, the author of 7 Actions of Highly Effective Advocates, and the host of the Voices in Advocacy podcast. Smart Meetings Magazine did a cover story on Roger's work. Successful Meetings Magazine named him one of the 6 people worth watching in the meetings industry, and Meetings Today named him to their inaugural list of meeting trendsetters. Connect Magazine also named Roger in their inaugural class of 15 over 50, even though he did not meet that age requirement. As you've already found out, Roger is a big man at 6'8" with our small podium. He is a big thinker, and he has some really big ideas for you today to help you continue your advocacy work throughout the year. So please join me in welcoming speaker, author, and advocacy expert, casually known as the big guy with the bow tie, Roger Rickard.
So I know that I am the only person between you and cocktails. So the louder you laugh, the more you enjoy, the faster I'll talk, and the faster we can all have a cocktail. Are you with me on that? That's the way we get it started. In 1989, the 40th President of the United States, Ronald Reagan, addressed the American public for the last time sitting behind the Resolute desk in the Oval Office. There's a clip that I want you to see. Listen closely for about this 1-minute excerpt.
I never meant to go into politics. It wasn't my intention when I was young. But I was raised to believe you had to pay your way for the blessings bestowed on you. I was happy with my career in the entertainment world, but I ultimately went into politics because I wanted to protect something precious. Ours was the first revolution in the history of mankind that truly reversed the course of government, and with 3 little words: we the people. We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car, and we decide where it should go and by what route and how fast. Almost all the world's constitutions are documents in which governments tell the people what their privileges are. Our Constitution is a document in which we the people tell the government what it is allowed to do. We the people are free.
So, yeah. You know, it always amazes me how people applaud to the video, which I love, because it says that the message was the right message. And the key to that message, in my opinion, is yes, we the people. But when he makes it so simple, we're the driver. The government's the car. We tell the government where to go and how fast and where to turn and where to brake. And so this is probably the greatest symbol of a car in our government, the presidential limousine. And today you drove the government car for ASTA on the Hill. So congratulations to you for the outstanding work you did. Give yourself a round of applause for the 172 meetings. That's impressive. And we were talking before I came up here with somebody, and they were making the comment, and it's always the interesting connections that take place. In one of the delegations today, someone was in the virtual meeting, and their relative or whatever knew the staff person and said, "Oh, she's sending your wedding present soon." And the staff person pretty much said, "You know, I think we can support what you're here for." So it's who knows who, oftentimes that gets a lot of the work done. So today you were the driver of the government car, and on behalf of ASTA and behalf of all of your fellow members of your association and the people in your industry, you deserve the rah-rah for the great work that you did. So the former president referred to we the people. James Madison added we the people of the United States in the preamble of the United States Constitution. Did you notice something? It didn't say I the king. Didn't say me the president. It didn't even say we the Congress. It says we the people. So you did yeoman work today as we the people of ASTA. We the people, travel advisors for the travel agencies in the industry. You did all that great work today. But now the question is, what do we do now? Where do we go next? How do we continue to drive the car from our different locations throughout the country, representing here today 40 states? What else can you do? There's a lot you can do. And so we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about how you can continue to grow your influence. Notice that's a seedling sitting in a hand. Now, I know that there are people in this room that have done this for years and are more versed than some others. But there are also some new people that this is the first time that they've done something like this. And so you've growing the seedling. Now we have to make that bigger, and we've got to plant the trees throughout the country for your industry. The great Louis Armstrong said, if you don't toot your own horn, there is no music. You have to continue to toot your horn. And we're going to talk about ways that we can do this. But remember, it's up to you to do the work. So on your tables, there's a couple of cards each. And if there's nobody at a table and you want to steal a few cards, go ahead. But there's a card here of the book, the pocket guide that I wrote, The 7 Actions of Highly Effective Advocates. And on the back is the list of the 7 actions. And I'm going to go over those. Wait a minute. I'm going to asticize those. Now, you notice how I had to slow down? Because asticizing is really hard to say correctly. But we're gonna go through these 7 relatively quickly here today. And I wrote it as a pocket guide because let me give you a factoid. The average person does not get past page 50 of a nonfiction book. That is a fact from the American Library Association. So why write a book just to say I wrote a book that had 200 or 300 or 400 words in it to please myself when nobody was going to read it anyhow? So I wrote a small pocket guide, and these are the 7 actions of highly effective advocates within the pocket guide. The first of the 7 is you must believe that what you're doing makes a difference. I already heard some stories of what happened today, and you're excited about the results that you had. But it's that belief. And it always astounds me that every time people come to Washington for the first time, and unfortunately, if you're a first timer and you didn't get that thrill of being on the Hill, of walking into the offices, come back. Because when you get that opportunity, we have set the hook for life. Because it is, I've done it hundreds of times. And I will tell you, even as I tell the story, I'm getting goosebumps up my arm about every time we do this. And it doesn't matter. It's just, maybe I'm a geek. Okay, my wife thinks I am a geek. I am a poli-sci geek. But I believe that your work moves mountains. I believe it makes great changes. And where does a belief like that come from? I began in the political world at 13. Now, you know how tall I am. At 13, I was only 3 inches shorter. Okay? So I didn't look 13, maybe a little peachy, but I didn't look 13 in most people's eyes. And I began doing political legwork. And I began working for candidates, going door to door. And I would canvass them, and I'd knock on the door, and I'd ask for their support. And I did all this work, and the hook was set for me. And then at 18 and a half years old, I made the wise, now please note this, the very wise decision to run for political office myself. I was 18 and a half years old. Wise decision. I actually ran against a man who had been in office longer than I had been on earth. But I did my homework. I went out and I got all the voter lists. And I created my A, Bs, and Cs. And if anybody's been in sales a long time, they've heard options like this of your A, Bs, and C prospects customers. So the A's were people that voted in every primary and every general for the last 5 years. The B's were you voted in at least 75% of them. The C's were 50%. And if you didn't get a grade, I never stopped to see you. And so I went up and down the street working on the A's, knocking on the doors, telling them, in fact, that I was 18 and a half years old. But remember, and this is giving the age away, this was the mid-70s. This is when we had just come out of riots in the late 60s, Kent State, Vietnam War, Watergate, Nixon, and I'm not a crook. We went through all that, and there were people that were older at that point that said, the youth of today are going to hell in a handbasket. And so I knocked on the door and I told them how old I was, and I told them if they believed that, they had the opportunity to break that now. Cast a vote for me. And I'll stay in this town and I'll fight for this town. It was a local office. Over 3,000 people voted. At the end of the night, I won by 5 votes. Okay? Now, it doesn't say anything about whether I was qualified, because I surely wasn't. I didn't deserve that job at all. But I hustled, and I worked, and I pounded the pavement, and I made a difference, at least for me, because I believed. If I didn't believe I had any chance, why would I have even done it? If you don't have a chance, you don't do things. So the first of the 7 actions is you must believe. I know we have believers here, but let's find more believers within your industry. Let's find more believers within the membership to continue this fight. Dwight David Eisenhower said, politics ought to be the part-time profession of those that would like to protect and defend the rights and privileges of free people. Now, I use this because part-time. All too often, speakers come up and they tell people how you must change your life to get something done. You don't have to. There are little things. That's why they're called actions. They're not called steps. You don't have to do 1 and complete this whole thing to get to 2 to 3 to 4. They're actions. You can take them at any time, in any place, in any way. Part-time. Just give us a little bit, because your little bit will move mountains and create tidal waves. The second action of the 7 actions of highly effective advocates is to be informed. You are informed by being here. I wish this morning that we would have had more time to answer your questions about the issues, because that's the meat and potatoes. And you wanted more meat and potatoes. And so I'm sure that they'll make an adjustment to have more time to be able to answer those questions for you in the future to keep you informed. But asticizing this, you can always get answers when you go to asta.org/advocacy. That information is there at any time for you, in any way. And read your Travel Advisor Daily. I mean, daily read your travel advisor, because there's a lot of things in there of things that are going on not only at the state levels, but also in the national level when it comes to advocacy. So that makes you informed. That makes you smarter. And if you didn't learn it today, you will continue to learn it by being involved in advocacy. Is when you're talking to most elected officials, they know about this much about a lot of things. And you know this much about your thing. So you go in better prepared than they are or the staff are to deal with issues like that. Now, you can't talk down to them with that attitude, but you have to have that confidence that I know. And the confidence to know that if I don't know, I know where to know and how to get that. So, the second of the 7 actions, be informed. Thank you for doing that. The third of the 7 actions, discuss it. Discuss the issues. Oh, I'm not supposed to talk about politics and religion. Well, guess what? Neither of these are politics and religion. These are about governing. These are about what the government needs to do, and not so much about the politics side of it. So be ready to discuss the issues. Attend ASTA chapter events. Hey! Okay, because by attending those chapter events, you're going to learn about things in greater detail. You're going to create another network of people. You're going to expand that network, and it's going to make you more valuable down the road, particularly when the road gets bumpy. We know how bumpy the road has been. And I must share with you, I'm a member of the National Speakers Association. Our chair did a webinar in March of last year. And our chair said, if you can do these 10 things, I'll see you when we're out of this. If you don't do these 10 things, you may not be around for me to see you. Because think about it. I'm in the same boat you are. I make part of my living being in front of audiences that didn't exist for 14 months. So I get it. I feel your pain, as Bill might say. So I get it. Share your knowledge with others. Don't be afraid to discuss that. That may intrigue someone who's a non-member to say there's value in being a member of ASTA. The fourth of the 7 actions is get on the record. You did that today. You told them who you were. You're going to follow up with them. They're going to have your contact information. That's great to get on the record. Now what do we do after today to continue to get on the record? Go to asta.org, advocacy. There are 8 campaigns running right now that you can participate in on that website. And you can participate by being able to make an argument, submit an email, sign on for support, go ask your local representatives if they can support that. And there's also a letter to the editor portal. Speak out, particularly to people that aren't in your community, per se. And when I say community, I don't mean a physical community. I mean in your association community. So speak out locally. There are Rotaries, Lions Clubs. There are 1,000 different groups that meet in your community at a small level that give you the opportunity to explain to them the pain of what you've gone through, the pain of why that affects us. Someone said today that they gave an argument as to, why we need to fight so hard for travel is wellness. That we know that, from a wellness standpoint, that travel helps you, and people have been cooped up, and so there's all different kind of angles that you can use, but get in front of small groups, because those small groups continue to grow and build a tidal wave of it. Share your story. It's personal. You heard the Chief of Staff earlier this morning talk about the fact that your stuff is personal. All right? That's what makes the difference. Why does the Congressional Management Foundation believe that the most effective tool in making decisions are constituents? Because they hear the personal stories. I started off with Ronald Reagan. Remember Ronald? When he would do a State of the Union, he'd do, well, I got a letter from Johnny the other day. And Johnny said, well, my mother is, and he'd go on. And the country would tilt their head and look at him and go, oh, wow, that's interesting. These members of Congress and their staffs tilt their head because your story's interesting. It gives them the meat that they need to make it work. Don't be afraid, the letter to the editor. Don't be afraid of an op-ed. An op-ed means opposition to whatever the editor is saying. And so if you find in a local newspaper that the editor is not supporting your industry, what you're doing, or why, reach out to the ASTA advocacy team and say, I want to write an op-ed. And they will help you. They will give you the tools that you need to stand up for yourselves. So do the right thing at any time. Write. Don't be afraid to send a note. And we were talking about this a little bit earlier, this little deviation. When you find out that the work that you did here today enabled somebody that you talked to co-sponsor the bill, easiest thing to do now is the little thank you note, the thank you email. Hey, we were in on X date, we did Y, we talked about X, Z. Thank you, and thank the member for listening to us and co-sponsoring the bill. That just puts you another level in their book, of getting closer to them. And if there's local radio stations where the same things are happening and you have an opportunity to call in and voice your opinion on it, do it. Do it in a civil way. Do it proud of what you do for a living, but make it clear what the points are for you. And while you're using social media, how about at ASTA Travel Advisors, or have you used the hashtag today, ASTA Legislative Day? Now, if you haven't, we still have a few minutes before the cocktails start. So I really don't blame you for getting out your phone at this point. I won't give you the black eye when you're getting your phone out and making sure that you're posting about the success of your day. So the fifth of the 7 actions is be a resource. What? Remember I said earlier, they know this much about this, and you know this much? So offer to them, to any elected official, when you want to know what's going on and how it is affecting our industry. Oh, they're passing cocktails. Hallelujah. When you want to know more about the industry, use me as a resource. That's what the position you can take. Tell them I'm here for you. Tell them if they think that they're getting information that's contrary or different, reach back out to me. I want to help you. In media, the producers of shows always want people that are willing to come out and talk and speak. Same with staff on the Hill or anywhere. They need a list of people that they can call that they trust. And if you get to the point where you're called or emailed because they trust you and your opinion, boy, you are a really effective and influential advocate when they're calling you to say, help, I need to know more. So aspire to that. The ASTA size, develop relationships at the district offices. That's even more important. Because if you're trying to get an appointment in DC and there's somebody at the district office that says, oh yeah, give them time if they're flying into DC, that makes it easier when you come for this. It also creates the boots on the ground. Also gives you the opportunity to maybe go to events. Tell the district office that, listen, if the congressperson or senator or whoever is having an event, please keep us posted on it. I share a funny story. About, well, a few years ago, I was seriously considering a run for Congress. And I had resources, I had connections, I had incredible backing, and I was this close to doing it. And what I decided to do was, with the incumbent, every time they had a town hall meeting, I would show up. Wouldn't say a word. Show up in a suit, be quiet, carry a little notebook, and sit and write notes. The second meeting, staff hounded me because they wanted to figure out who's the guy in the suit that's not saying a thing, what's going on here? And they immediately feared I might run against the person. What it did was give me the opportunity to get closer to that staff to make a determination whether I felt they were doing a good job and I shouldn't run versus that. Now, I'm not recommending that to everybody, but what a tactic, because all of a sudden staff was paying a lot of attention to me, as well as the member. You know, and I'm really not easy to hide in a crowd. So it didn't matter where I sat, that they knew what was going on. Listen, the congressional offices can help you in many other ways, both on policy issues, but as well as with constituent work. Nothing's better than to have contacts in the congressional office when something isn't going right for somebody. Either they're somewhere in the world and they have an issue, something's happening, you having connections with that office is very, very powerful. A reporter asked Harry Truman, 1948, would you be against lobbyists working for your program? And Truman said, we wouldn't call those people lobbyists. We would call them citizens appearing in the public interest. You are the citizens that appear in the public interest for ASTA. So keep up that great work. And finally, number 6 of the 7, 6th action of 7, volunteer. Volunteer on committees with ASTA. Volunteer to be a part of what your community is. Okay? Attend legislative day next year in June. It'll be great. Join ASTA when they make the headquarter calls and Zoom meetings with congressional offices. You are now experienced. You know how to do that, okay? Testify at the state level when asked, if there need be. And don't forget to volunteer for political campaigns. In some of the other programs I do a whole bit about proving the AAA value of you participating in any level with political campaigns. And I don't have the time to be able to dive into that, but I will tell you, if you register to volunteer for a campaign, and even if that means you only get 50 stamps and put them on 50 letters, and that's all you do, you're now listed as a volunteer for the campaign, and thus, when the elected official sees you one time, it's easier to get in the door. Common sense. If you're in sales out here as a supplier and you're dealing with people, who do you call back first? You call the people that buy from you. You know, that's who you call. The 7th action, contribute. Yes, just like any good preacher, you wait till the end to ask for the money, okay? But it's time for the money. Yeah? Speak. Ask peers to join ASTA. I mentioned that earlier. Contribute to the PAC. The work that the PAC does on your behalf gets you in the door. And it makes a huge difference. And I'm going to add one other thing. If you can, contribute to political campaigns. Now, they will tell you they all want the maximum amount of money from you. But if we've learned anything in about the last 10 years, people that are giving $5 and $10 along the way on political campaigns can still make a huge difference. We saw that first with Obama on a national level, and we have seen it ever since then. So don't feel like you have to give the arm and a leg, but give something, because you won't be, until you get to a certain threshold, you won't even be listed to where anybody else can bug you, but they know you gave some money. And that's what's important. So those are the 7 actions. If anybody didn't get a card and wants a card, you can write your name on a card and just say 7 actions, and I'll send you one. I didn't have enough today to do that. Wait a minute, here's the choir. So I know that I have been preaching to the choir today. And I know that I preached at the end of the day. But I want to share something with you. To be a really good choir, you must go to choir practice. You must grab the hymnal. You must open the hymn to the right page. Today, that page is ASTA and what your needs are. And then you must practice, practice, practice to be good at what you do as that choir. So that's what you do when you're out of here today, as you continue to be that. To travel to Rome, to go to the great city of Rome. By the way, if you have not heard, and you probably have, the European Union today made an announcement that they're going to open Europe up to other countries that have met their requirements. Now, what they teased with is they haven't said who those countries are yet. But there's a solid indication that by the end of the week there will be an announcement. So when you want to go to Rome, Vox Populi. Does anybody know what that is? Voice of the people. You are the voice of ASTA. You sang loud today. You did a fabulous job. I encourage you to keep that job up all year long, so that by the time you get here next year in June, in 2022, you will be a powerful, united voice on behalf of your businesses, your industry, and us that love to travel. Have a wonderful evening and enjoy your cocktails.